About Helius right now, we are delivering a very novel therapeutic approach to one of the most common symptoms in neurology, which is balance and gait deficit. We have a PONS device, which is short for Portable Neuromodulation Stimulator. It is portable, so you can use it with your rehab specialist and then take it home for the rest of your therapy. It is the first and only orally applied. We stimulate the surface of your tongue for 20 minutes, 5 times a day, while you're in combination with your physical therapy exercises to improve those functional outcomes that are related to balance and gait deficits. We get an extensive IP portfolio expiring in about 15 years. So we've got a long runway with a tremendous amount of IP protection. If you look down on the bottom left, we are authorized and commercial for gait deficit due to MS, to multiple sclerosis. There's well over 1 million people suffering from MS right now in the United States. We got cleared by the FDA in March of 2021 through our first FDA breakthrough designation. And right now we have a second breakthrough designation for the largest balance and gait deficit market, which is stroke. We're also commercially available in Canada in well over 72 rehab clinics and hospitals for not only MS and stroke, but also a traumatic brain injury as well. And then lastly, as you can see in Australia, we're cleared by the TGA in just the symptom of balance and gait. There's no indication like MS, stroke, or TBI. So let's try to understand what a balance and gait deficit looks like, and especially with a neurological disorder. And if you look at the circles right now, you can see some of the symptoms. And it truly impacts the daily activities of someone that has MS, that has stroke, that has a traumatic brain injury, or Parkinson's, or any other vestibular imbalance. But you have dizziness, coordination, you have difficulty walking, going up and down stairs is a problem, and then your everyday tasks, whether it's going to work, driving your car, or just walking from your bedroom to the kitchen, becomes a very difficult an event for you. And then lastly, look at the last one. It's the high risk of falling. All of us probably have a normal balancing gait, but if you have a neurological disorder like MS or stroke or TBI, you're going to have an extremely high risk of falling. So if you look at what we do, here's a young lady working on her balance and gait deficit. Our PONS device is 2 pieces. One's a smart device, the controller, and the mouthpiece is plugged in to the controller, and it gently stimulates the surface of your tongue. There are 2 nerves in your tongue that we're sending signals to the brain. We're up-regulating to the brain. And in one of our clinical studies, we increase blood flow and blood oxygen to the brain. And with that, as you're stimulating your tongue and you're up-regulating those signals to the brain, you're actually strengthening those neural connections. And with your balance and gait exercises, you're improving and or removing that deficit. So if you think about it, say you just got MS and you got a balance and gait dysfunction. You basically go to rehab to begin with. Now, if you add PONS therapy, and if you're using a cane like Selma Blair or Christina Applegate, we have the ability to get you back to a normal gait. Or if you go from a cane to a stroller or a walker, we could reverse that curve by using PONS therapy in combination with physical therapy exercises. So here's what we're doing on a mechanism of action basis. Again, every 20-minute session, and that's 5 times a day with your balance and gait exercises, we're stimulating and we're sending 25 million electrical impulses through the 2 nerves on the surface of your tongue, the trigeminal nerve and your facial nerve. And that upregulates the cerebellum through the brainstem. And once that happens, it's creating a potential long-term neuroplastic or rewiring of your brain so that you can relearn your balance and gait exercises. So this is very important, it's very new. We're activating these brain paths. So once we send the signal up, it hits your left prefrontal cortex, and once that happens over a number of times, and PONS therapy is a 14-week treatment, it down-regulates through your spine so that you can relearn your balance and gait exercises. Now, PONS therapy is a 14-week therapy. It's safe and effective. We've had no adverse effects in well over 200,000 sessions. Your first 2 weeks are done with a registered PONS physical therapist or OT. And then your last 12 weeks, are done at home. There's 91% of the PONS sessions are done at home, so it's home healthcare. It's not an AI device, but our controller is a smart device. We know when you're using it, when you're not using it. So basically, there's 100 minutes of dosing per day over the 14 weeks. So again, it's 20 minutes with your balance exercises, 20 minutes with your gait, 20 minutes balance, 20 minutes gait, and then another 20 minutes with just breathing that consolidates all those gains. So let's look at just the US market. We are commercial right now in MS. There's over 1 million MS patients and 70% suffer from having problems with their gait deficit or walking. And then look at stroke. Stroke is over 7 million chronic stroke patients, that's 12 months after their stroke, and 80% of those survivors have walking impairments. And then TBI, traumatic brain injury, over 80% report balance impairment as well. So if you think of all of those, 70 to 80%, all of them have a high risk of falling. And what it costs, each fall to the healthcare system right now costs $65,000 per fall. So that's not a medical indication, that's a medical condition that when you have a balance and gait dysfunction, like these three indications. And it's well over $50 billion to the healthcare system when you fall. And you have multiple chances of falling per year with these balance and gait deficits. So let's go back to the MS market and characterize how we're commercializing it, how we're looking at MS. It is a prescribed device and treatment. It's usually prescribed by your MS neurologist or other MS specialists. It's well characterized. A lot of people know people with multiple sclerosis, whether it's Montel Williams, whether it's Selma Blair, Christina Applegate, John Hill on CNN, to Neil Cavuto. They all have MS. 2/3 are women. They get diagnosed between their 20s and 30s, and they start having balance and gait deficits. Men get diagnosed later in life in their late 40s and early 50s. If you look at just what they really are very vocal about on social media is their gait dysfunction. And with that, they're always looking for and seeking new promising treatments like PONS therapy. So as a company, we're educating three stakeholders: the patient, and the patient is the greatest advocate, but also their rehab specialists, because they go in and out of rehab for their balance and gait, and then also their neurologists. And we do targeted marketing, mostly on social media, with testimonies. We've got a great one going on with a veteran, Captain Kevin Byrne, who we did before and after videos, before PONS therapy and then after. It's changed his life dramatically. So I suggest you take a look at it, Facebook or LinkedIn. It just brings tears to your eyes when people's lives are changing on a daily basis because of PONS therapy. But we're active with all the MS advocacy groups, the National MS Society, the MSAA, and so forth. So what we've done to launch our initiatives, and we're right on the cusp of our reimbursement, but we just came out with a PONS step study from 6 KOLs from NYU Langone, Shepherd, MGH, New England Neurology, and the first group of data came out and it confirmed that it's almost 3 times greater efficacy if you use PONS therapy than just physical therapy by itself. And we're waiting for the durability. So there's a washout period, and this data should be coming out in January, where basically how long does the 14-week efficacy last? And that's going to be a great question, and I'm excited to get the answers from these key opinion leaders. So our commercial launch started in 22. This was just at the end of COVID, and we realized it took not 30 days to get an appointment with your neurologist, but after COVID, it was averaging 3 months. So we decided to partner with Upscript Health and to build a telehealth e-commerce online pharmacy platform where a patient can come in with their prescription and get it filled, or they could get a prescription online by filling out a short questionnaire and for $25 asking for an appointment with a third-party neurologist, and with that neurologist would have an e-prescribing capability, and that prescription can be filled out online as well. So we're excited. We've got a great partnership with Upscript. And the second thing we did post-COVID was for the rehab specialists, the physical therapists and the occupational therapists, to save time and money, we modularized their training. So we have a modularized software program. It takes 3 hours or less. It's very scalable. We could train 1,000 PTs a day and get them access and give them the resources. But it's free to them. And for us, if you think about a patient, they don't want to drive 30 minutes to their PT, especially with someone with gait deficit. 15 minutes or less to their physical therapy clinic for those first two weeks. That's what our goal is as a company. So the more rehab specialists we get trained up, the better it is for the patient and customer care. So on a reimbursement basis, actually, this is an old slide. So unfortunately, I think we got last year's slides on this. So let me update you. So our list price is $25,700. The cash price, and we're right now, we have our FSS, GSA, and DAPA contracts. So we're actually in the VAs right now at a slight discount to the PONS system of $25,700. It's really about $23,800. We do have a dual pathway here. We're in discussions with CMS Medicare because about 30% of MS patients are covered by Medicare, where 90% of stroke patients are covered by Medicare. And that's why March of 25 is a very exciting time for us, because that's when our 9-site clinical study in stroke, that data comes out, and hopefully we'll be filing a second application with the FDA for balance of gait due to stroke and the risk of falling. So here we are about stroke. So we're approved in Canada in stroke. So we had 31 patients in Canada. Almost 70% had a 5-point improvement in their gait assessment. And that's dramatic. That's going from a cane to a normal balance of gait, or a stroller potentially back to a cane or better. And the big number there is right at the end. 28% were no longer at risk of falling. Now that might seem a low number, but it's not. Look at what stroke patients who just do physical therapy, it's 1 to 3%. So physical therapy really doesn't have a great effect on reducing the risk of falling. PONS therapy does, and that's dramatic. So again, we're in a 9-site clinical study. This is very exciting for us as a company, but for all of you as potential shareholders and shareholders to create value. The FDA, with our granted second FDA breakthrough designation, that's an accelerated process through the FDA for our proposed dynamic gait imbalance deficit due to symptoms for stroke. The FDA has come alongside us. in our process. MUSC, University of South Carolina, is the lead researcher along with Brooks Rehab, MGH, Shepherd, New England Neurology, and there's a few others. So we're really excited, and we're looking forward to submitting to the FDA in hopefully April or early May our second indication. And then in Canada right now, we have a tremendous opportunity. It's also cash pay. We are getting one-off reimbursement in stroke, in mild to moderate traumatic brain injury, and also in MS. So we did a wonderful study, well actually we didn't, but we supported it with Pacific Blue Cross. I think we still have this, yes. It was a back to work study. So Pacific Blue Cross is one of the provincial British Columbia Blue Crosses, and they took 9 individuals on long-term disability that have traumatic brain injury. And it was at least 2 years away from their car accident or worker's injury event. 8 of the 9 said, after using PONS therapy for 14 weeks, said, we no longer have an issue with our balance and gait, we can go back to work. Well, 5 out of the 9 went back to work, and we saved them well over $1.6 million in long-term disabilities. They closed out those claims. Those 5 folks went back to work. I don't know what happened to the other 3. I'm hoping they went back as well. But the last claimant, depending on what the actuaries did, still had $2.1 million on his long-term disability. He was 42 years old, and he went back to work. So tremendous savings, and the cost-benefit analysis regarding this for payers has opened up a broad spectrum of conversation with other payers across Canada. So if you look at just 24, 25, let me simplify this. We're right here waiting for CMS and reimbursement. We have our HCPCS codes. We're in our first to second inning with the VA right now and helping veterans with their MS and their gait deficit. We have our stroke trial that will be publicly announced in March. We're publishing more data, the PONCEPT data, in February at one of the biggest multiple sclerosis conference, in that durability, how long does PONS last after 14 weeks. So we're really excited going into year end. So I'm going to stop there. The one thing we did, we're a $2 million market cap. It's been just a terrible market for micro-cap markets, as you probably all know. So, you know, what we did, because of CMS and reimbursement, we've been battling CMS for well over a year now. We do have our HCPCS codes, so we could file one-off claims with commercial payers, but without Medicare coming in and establishing the right pricing for us, based off our VA pricing, our reimbursement price, and our list price, we're still a cash pay. So we, as a company and a board, made a decision 2 weeks ago to hire B. Riley Securities and to proceed with strategic alternatives. There's so much value associated with this company, not only our patent portfolio, but we're on the cusp of reimbursement. And with reimbursement, you know, within 12 months, we could, you know, be probably pretty close to cash flow break even. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions or...
Okay,
yes.
we can open the floor to questions. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Dane, why don't you, since you shared this with me when I interviewed you,
Yeah.
why don't you share with them the story about Montel Williams, because it was
Sure.
fascinating, it really is it resonated with me.
Yeah, so Montel Williams, if you remember Montel, 20-year Navy veteran, he got diagnosed, you know, in his late 40s. Well, actually, he got misdiagnosed for about 3 years. They didn't know if it was MS, they thought it was other things, but you actually had to walk them around like you were walking around your grandfather or grandmother when they're 85 or 90. That's how bad his balance and gait was. And they finally realized it was MS. And Montel, who lives south of us here in Miami, found the PONS device at the University of Wisconsin as an experimental. And they were doing MS studies. And Montel, 7-8 years ago, went on PONS therapy, and he's never looked back. He's been skiing, he works out every day. He still uses ponds more on a maintenance basis, but he's one of the co-founders of the company back in 2014. So it made a tremendous change in his daily activities. You wouldn't even know. I was with him in April at an MSAA luncheon in Atlanta. You wouldn't even know he has MS, which is, you know, for a man in his late 60s, you got to realize MS is a chronic progressive disease. The curve for your balance and gait is negative. Just like Parkinson's, and frankly, if you have a stroke, it's very negative when it comes to balance and gait deficit. So Montel's a big supporter of the company. Yeah. Yes.
Very nice story. I'm a retired doctor. I see two issues. If people wait too long to get ponds, they get muscle atrophy. I take a bunch of my old friends and neighbors to doctors, and once that muscle is gone, it's like a skeleton. You can't stimulate a skeleton. So time is of the essence in traumatic brain injury and in stroke.
100%. So, you know, subacute and acute is very important. We've done studies there as well, pilot studies, and everyone reacted positively. So the way we see stroke is simple. Once you get, if you have a stroke, you're in ICU. Once you're able to come out of ICU and go into your standard rehab, inpatient, and sometimes out, depending on the degree of the stroke, you should be on PONS therapy immediately. There are no side effects, no adverse effects. And frankly, if you just had MS, you got diagnosed for MS, and you're experiencing balance and gait immediately, balance and gait, the sooner you get on PONS therapy, the better your life is going to be. That's what we understand. So we want to change the standard of care, which is just physical therapy right now. That's all they have for balance and gait, whether it's a stroke, whether it's traumatic brain injury, whether it's Parkinson's. They all have balance and gait. Yeah, great question.
I got another question. Is it possible for the ponds to be used or reconfigured to actually provide brain exercise for aging people?
So one of our, if you go back to our IP portfolio, so it's oral stimulation using POND in combination with physical therapy exercises, and cognitive exercises. So the answer is, we just haven't gone into the cognitive side. You know, given where we are, we really have no competition but physical therapy by itself for balance and gait deficit. But on a cognitive basis, if you look at what we upregulate to your left, right, and rear of your brain, we increase blood flow, blood oxygen to the brain. One of our studies was doing before and after functional MRIs, before PONS, after PONS, and we also did it on a placebo basis as well. So just physical therapy by itself. The placebo showed no activity in the brain, where PONS therapy had an increase, especially in the left prefrontal, a 50% increase in activity. So again, it's something to touch on. The IP portfolio is well protected. We would love, I would love to do a New York Times Sunday crossword. I can only do Monday and Tuesdays, so. I don't know who could do a Sunday here, or a Saturday. I mean, I couldn't get through it. Yes?
This therapy is a one-time. How about the maintenance?
So yeah, great question. So that's why we did the MS study just recently. We came out with the 14-week, and it confirmed all our clinical and real-world data. So what we did for the MS patients, there's a 6-month follow-up. So that's going to answer your question.
And my second question is, can our brain be overstimulated?
That's a great question. I'm not a neurologist. I don't think you could be overstimulated. I think we're always understimulated, depending on how many cups of coffee. But you got a doctor up there. So my chief medical officer is a neurologist. I could ask her that question.
Do you work with a neuroradiologist to develop, to promote your device?
Not neuroradio, just neurologist, MS neurologist. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then Channel Check truly is your trade. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series lunches, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Micro-Cap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since Channel Check is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why Channel Check is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.